CEO went into shock when he saw his assistant working as a waitress, and what she revealed. Harrison Sterling never imagined that a simple business meeting would completely change his view of the person who had been working alongside him for 3 years. The 42-year-old businessman had built his company from the ground up and prided himself on maintaining strictly professional relationships with all his employees. It was during an important dinner at the city's most elite 5-star restaurant that his life took a completely different turn. Harrison was waiting for his business partners when he saw a familiar figure approaching the tables with a tray in her hand. For a few seconds, he thought he was seeing things, but when the woman turned her face, there was no doubt at all. Chloe Miller, his personal assistant, was there working as a waitress. The discovery left him completely bewildered. Chloe always arrived promptly at 8 in the morning and left strictly at 6 in the evening. She was never late, never missed a day, and always maintained an impeccable demeanor in the office. How was it possible that she was there at that moment, serving tables with the same elegance she organized his schedule with? Harrison discreetly watched as she attended to a table of businessmen. He noticed how she smiled politely, even when one of the men spoke rudely, how she kept her patience when another complained about the temperature of the soup. It was the same Chloe he knew from the office, but in a completely different context. When she finally spotted him, the reaction was instant. All the color drained from her face and her eyes widened in surprise and panic. Chloe almost dropped the tray she was carrying and, visibly nervous, tried to quickly retreat toward the kitchen. Harrison immediately cancelled his meeting with his partners, making up some excuse, and followed Chloe to the back of the restaurant. He needed to understand what was going on. All these years, he believed he knew his work team reasonably well, especially his assistant, who handled confidential matters on a daily basis. "Chloe, I need to talk to you," he said, intercepting her in the hallway that led to the kitchen. She stopped abruptly, still clutching the tray tightly. Her hands were visibly trembling. "Mr. Harrison, I can explain," she murmured, avoiding looking directly at him. "Then explain. How long have you been working here?" 2 years, she answered in a low voice, finally placing the tray on a nearby table. 2 years? Harrison couldn't hide his surprise. "But how? You always leave the office right on time." Chloe took a deep breath before answering. It was obvious that this was a situation she had always feared facing. "I come here every night after work. I work until 11:30, Monday through Saturday." The confession hit Harrison like a punch to the stomach. His assistant, who always showed so much energy and willingness at work, actually had a second job he knew absolutely nothing about. How many nights did she get home after midnight? How many hours of sleep did she sacrifice? But why, Chloe? Isn't your salary at the company enough? Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, go ahead and leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Tears began to well up in Chloe's eyes. For 3 years, she had managed to keep her 2 worlds completely separate. Now, everything was falling apart. "My father lost his job 3 years ago, Mr. Harrison. He was 58 years old at the time, and no one wanted to hire someone his age. My mother never worked outside the home. She always took care of the house and the family. And my brother—" She paused, fighting back the tears. "My brother has Down syndrome. He needs special care, therapies, medication." Harrison felt something strange in his chest. All those years, Chloe arrived at the office always well-dressed, always smiling, always efficient. He never imagined that behind that professional facade there was such a harsh reality. "We lost our home 2 years ago," she continued, now crying openly. "We had to move into a small walk-up apartment in Midtown. The rent is high, the bills keep piling up, and my brother's treatment costs a fortune. My salary at the company covers the basic expenses, but it's not enough for everything." "Why did you never tell me about this?" asked Harrison, genuinely confused. Chloe looked at him with an expression that mixed surprise and sadness. "Tell you, Mr. Harrison? You barely talk to me beyond work matters. I've organized your professional life for 3 years. I know your schedule better than my own. I know your preferences, your hours, your commitments. But you never asked me how I was doing, if I needed anything, or even what my brother's name is." Chloe's remark hit Harrison square in the chest. It was true, he had always treated her courteously, but from a distance. He recognized her competence, trusted her work, but never took an interest in her personal life. To him, the boundaries between professional and personal life were very clear and should never mix. At that moment, the restaurant manager appeared in the hallway, visibly irritated. "Chloe, what's going on here? You're standing around talking while there are tables waiting. This can't happen." The man was short, heavy-set, and spoke with excessive authority. Harrison immediately felt a dislike for him. "I'm sorry, Mr. Henderson. I'm heading back now," said Chloe, quickly wiping away her tears. "Who is this man?" asked Henderson, looking Harrison up and down with suspicion. Harrison was about to introduce himself when Chloe interrupted him. He's an acquaintance, Mr. Henderson. He was just leaving." "Then let him leave. This is no place for social visits," Henderson said harshly. It was at that moment that Harrison lost his patience. The way that man treated Chloe, the person he recognized as one of the most competent employees he had ever had, was unacceptable. "Actually, I'm Harrison Sterling, director of Sterling Consulting," he said, extending his hand to Henderson. The effect was immediate. Henderson knew Harrison's company, one of the largest consulting firms in the city, and knew exactly who he was. His face changed expression completely. "Mr. Sterling, what an honor to have you here," said Henderson, almost bowing with reverence. "I hope you enjoyed your dinner. Chloe is one of our best employees, always very dedicated." "Is that so?" Harrison looked directly at Chloe, who was visibly embarrassed by the situation. "Interesting how competent people are valued differently depending on where they are, isn't it?" The comment was subtle, but loaded with meaning. Henderson, nervous, tried to change the subject. "Is there anything you need? Can I offer you our VIP table? A bottle of our best wine?" "No, thank you. I've already eaten and I need to leave," said Harrison, still looking at Chloe. "But I would very much like to continue our conversation tomorrow, if possible." Chloe just nodded, clearly emotional and confused by the whole situation. Harrison left the restaurant with his mind racing. On the way home, he couldn't stop thinking about everything he had discovered. Chloe worked 14 hours a day, 6 days a week, to support an entire family. Meanwhile, he complained when he had to work more than 8 hours or check his emails on the weekend. Arriving at his apartment, a spacious and comfortable place in the Upper East Side, Harrison poured himself a premium bourbon and stood on the balcony watching the city view. How many other employees at the company were facing similar struggles? How many other personal stories had he completely ignored? The following morning, Chloe arrived at the office at her usual time, but it was clear she'd had a rough night. Her eyes were swollen from crying, and she avoided looking directly at Harrison. "Good morning, Mr. Harrison," she said, placing the day's documents on his desk as she always did. "Good morning, Chloe. Can we talk in my office?" She nodded and followed him, closing the door behind her. Harrison gestured to one of the armchairs across from his desk, but she chose to remain standing. "Chloe, please sit down. This isn't a formal conversation." She obeyed, but remained tense, as if expecting a reprimand or, worse, a termination. "I spent the whole night thinking about our conversation yesterday," Harrison began, "and I need to apologize to you." "Apologize?" She seemed genuinely surprised. "Yes, I'm sorry for being such a distant boss all these years. I'm sorry for never asking if you were okay, if you needed anything, or if there was something I could do to help." Chloe remained silent, but tears began to fall from her eyes again. "You've been an exemplary employee, Chloe. Your organization, your efficiency, your dedication are flawless. I trust you more than anyone else in this company, but I spoke to you as a human being." "Mr. Harrison, you don't need to apologize. Personal life and work are separate things. I've always known that." "But they shouldn't be," he said, surprising both her and himself. "A company is made of people, not machines, and people have needs, problems, families, dreams. How could I have ignored that for so long?" Chloe finally looked him in the eyes. There was a mixture of surprise, gratitude, and still a hint of distrust in her expression. "What do you want to know?" "Everything. I want to get to know your family, understand your struggles, See how I can help. And I'm not just talking about you, but about all the employees. I need to be a better boss, a better human being." Over the next hour, Chloe shared details Harrison never could have imagined. Her father, Arthur, had been a mechanic for 30 years at the same shop. When the shop closed, he desperately tried to find another job, but his age was always an obstacle. Eventually, he gave up looking and fell into depression. Her mother, Martha, had always been a homemaker. She raised her 2 children with dedication, but never developed professional skills. At 55, she was trying to learn how to use a computer, hoping to maybe land a part-time job. Chloe's brother, Toby, was 24 years old and had Down syndrome. He was a loving and cheerful young man, but he required constant supervision and expensive treatments. The occupational, speech, and physical therapies consumed a large portion of the family's income. "We were a middle-class family," Chloe explained. "We weren't rich, but we lived well. We had our own home, a car, we could pay the bills, and there was still a little left over for leisure. When Dad lost his job, everything changed overnight." "And you took on the responsibility for all of them," Harrison observed. "I was the only one with a steady job. And thanks to you, by the way, this company gave me the opportunity I needed. But one salary alone wasn't enough for 4 people, especially with Toby's special needs." Harrison asked a few questions about the family's expenses and was impressed by Chloe's financial management skills. She had detailed spreadsheets, tracked every penny coming in and going out, negotiated payment plans, always looked for the best price options for everything. She was more organized with her personal finances than many of the businessmen he knew. "And how do you manage to keep up your performance at work after such a grueling schedule?" he asked. "Freshly roasted coffee." She smiled for the first time in the conversation. "Lots of freshly roasted coffee and necessity, Mr. Harrison. When you know 4 people depend on you, you find strength you didn't even know you had." After Chloe returned to work, Harrison was alone in his office, reflecting on everything he had discovered. He picked up the phone and called Henderson, his personal accountant. "Henderson, I need you to do some research for me. I want to know the average cost of living for a family of 4 in our city, including expenses for a person with special needs. Is this for some market study?" "No, it's personal, and I want the data by tomorrow." Harrison spent the rest of the day watching Chloe work. He noticed how she always arrived 15 minutes early, how she organized not only her own schedule, but also anticipated his needs, how she treated all her colleagues with kindness, even when she was visibly tired. In the afternoon, he made an impulsive decision. He got in his car and drove to the restaurant where she worked. He wanted to see with his own eyes what her work environment was like and, above all, talk to the manager, Henderson. The restaurant was empty in the middle of the afternoon. Henderson received him with exaggerated enthusiasm, clearly hoping for some kind of benefit from his connection to Chloe. "Mr. Sterling, what a pleasure to see you again. How can I help you?" "Actually, I came to talk about Chloe," Harrison said directly. "Ah, she's an exemplary employee, never late, never misses a day, always polite with customers. A rare gem in the food service industry. And how do you treat her here?" The question caught Henderson off guard. He hesitated before answering. "Well, we treat all our employees with respect and professionalism, including yelling at her in the middle of her shift when she talks to someone for 2 minutes. Henderson turned red. It was obvious that Harrison had witnessed the scene the day before. "Mr. Sterling, I was just maintaining discipline, nothing personal against Chloe." "And what's her salary here?" Well, it's confidential. Henderson, I've been a businessman for over 15 years. I know the going rates in this industry. I just want to confirm some information." Reluctantly, Henderson revealed that Chloe earned only a little above the federal minimum wage, working 6 nights a week, including Saturdays. She had no benefits, no paid vacation, no job security of any kind. "And she never complained about anything?" asked Harrison. "Never. On the contrary, she was always grateful for the opportunity. She said she really needed the job." Harrison left the restaurant with even more admiration for Chloe and even more outrage at his own business blindness. How did she manage to maintain that positive attitude in the office after enduring unnecessary humiliations every night? The next morning, Harrison arrived at the office with a proposal. He called Chloe into his office and got straight to the point. "Chloe, I want to make you a proposal. I'm thinking about increasing your salary." Her eyes lit up, but she also showed caution. "A raise, Mr. Harrison?" "Yes, a significant raise. Enough so you don't have to work at night." "Mr. Harrison, that's very generous, but I don't want charity. I want to deserve any raise I receive." Her answer impressed him. Even in a desperate situation, Chloe maintained her dignity and professional pride. "It's not charity, Chloe. It's fairness. You've worked here for 3 years and never asked for a raise. Your performance is exemplary. And most importantly, I'm thinking about expanding your responsibilities." "Expanding how?" "I want you to become my official executive assistant. That would include attending important meetings, representing me at some events, maybe even occasional business travel. It's a real promotion with a salary to match." Chloe remained silent for a few moments, processing the proposal. "Mr. Harrison, can I be honest with you?" "Of course. I've always dreamed of an opportunity like this. I studied business administration, graduated with good grades, took continuing education courses, but when my family situation got complicated, I had to take whatever job was available. This assistant position was a godsend at the time. And now I'm scared, afraid I won't live up to the new responsibilities, afraid I'll let you down, afraid this is just pity." "Chloe, look at me," said Harrison, leaning across the desk. "For 3 years, you've managed my schedule, organized my professional life, dealt with difficult clients, solved complex problems, and you've never ever let me down. If there's anyone in this company with the potential to grow, it's you." Tears welled up in Chloe's eyes again, but this time they were tears of relief and hope. "What about the restaurant? You'll give your notice today. In fact, I have a few words to exchange with your manager there." "Mr. Harrison, please don't do anything that could hurt him professionally because of me." "Chloe, let me worry about that. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, go ahead and leave a like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps those of us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. That same afternoon, Harrison accompanied Chloe to the restaurant so she could give her notice. Henderson was visibly upset about losing a competent employee, but he didn't dare make any disrespectful comment in Harrison's presence. "I hope you'll reconsider, Chloe," said Henderson. "Employees like you are hard to find." "Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Henderson. I learned a lot here." Harrison observed Chloe's dignity even in an uncomfortable situation. She showed no resentment, made no accusations. She simply fulfilled her professional obligation to the very end. On the way back to the office, Harrison made a decision that would surprise even himself. "Chloe, you mentioned that your family lost their home. Do you still dream of buying a new one?" "Of course we do, but that seems impossible right now. With property prices and our financial situation." "What if I told you I know about a special financing program for employees of companies with a good reputation in the market?" Chloe looked at him with suspicion. "Mr. Harrison, you're being too generous. I can't accept that much help." "It's not help, it's an investment. A stable employee with her own home is a valuable asset to any company. Besides, I have contacts in real estate who can arrange special terms." "But I don't even know if I could afford the monthly payments. With your new salary and without the second job, I'm sure you'll manage. And if any temporary difficulty comes up, the company can offer loans with favorable terms." Chloe stopped walking and turned to him with teary eyes. "Why are you doing all this for me?" Harrison thought carefully before answering. "Because for 3 years, you've taken care of my professional life better than I ever could have. Because you sacrificed your health, your time, your dreams to keep your family together. And because I've finally realized that a company is only truly prosperous when its employees prosper too." In the following days, the change in Chloe's routine was dramatic. For the first time in 2 years, she was home by 6:30 in the evening. She had time to have dinner with her family, help her brother with his activities, and talk to her parents about their day. Harrison also made a point of meeting her family in person. One Friday afternoon, he asked Chloe to take him to the walk-up apartment where they lived. The place was modest, but organized and clean. Arthur, Chloe's father, was a man of medium build with graying hair, who came across as somewhat shy when receiving his daughter's boss. Martha, her mother, was a kind woman who insisted on preparing freshly roasted coffee and some homemade cakes. It was Toby who impressed Harrison the most. The young man with Down syndrome was affectionate, communicative, and showed obvious pride in his sister. He showed Harrison his drawings, his occupational therapy activities, and talked about his dream of working at a bakery. "Chloe always talks about you," Toby said with his signature smile. "She says you're a very smart boss and that she really enjoys working at the company." "Is that so?" Harrison looked at Chloe, who blushed slightly. "Toby is exaggerating a bit," she said quickly. "No, I'm not," her brother protested. "You always say you like your job, that you've learned a lot, that the boss trusts you with important things." Arthur approached Harrison during coffee. "Mr. Harrison, I wanted to thank you for everything you're doing for my daughter. I know she's always been a good employee, but this raise and this promotion means so much to our family." "Arthur, can I be honest? I'm the one who should be thanking you. Chloe is the best employee I've ever had. I'm the one who took too long to recognize that properly. Even so, you didn't have to visit us to get to know our family. It shows that you're a person with a good heart." Martha joined the conversation. "Chloe used to come home so tired every night. She never complained, but I could see how hard it was for her. Now she comes home smiling. She has the energy to talk to us. She even started watching the movies she loved again on the weekends." "And she started dreaming again," Arthur added. "It's been a long time since I've seen her talk about plans for the future, about things she'd like to do or accomplish." Harrison was moved by the family's words. Seeing the positive impact his decisions had made in the lives of real people was more rewarding than any business profit he had ever earned. On the way back, Chloe was quiet, lost in thought. "What are you thinking about?" Harrison asked. "About how quickly life can change. 2 weeks ago I was desperate, working 14 hours a day with no hope that things would get better. Today I have a promotion, a decent salary, and my family is hopeful again. And how do you feel about all of it?" "Grateful, but also scared. I still don't fully believe this is real. I'm afraid of waking up and finding out it was all just a dream." "Chloe, I can assure you it's real. And what's more, this is just the beginning. You have the potential to grow much further in this company. Mr. Harrison, can I ask you something personal?" "Of course." "What made you change? Why did you decide to take an interest in your employees' lives now?" Harrison thought for a few moments before answering. "I guess seeing you at that restaurant was a wake-up call. I realized I had become the kind of boss who only sees numbers, reports, results. I forgot that behind every position, there's a person with dreams, fears, needs, families. But you've always been fair to us." "Fair, maybe, but not human. There's a difference between treating employees properly and treating them as whole human beings." In the following months, Harrison implemented several changes at the company. He instituted monthly one-on-one meetings with each employee, not only to evaluate performance but to learn about their personal and professional aspirations. He created a benefits program that included extended health insurance for family members, educational assistance, and even personal financial advisory. Chloe quickly adapted to her new responsibilities. She participated in important meetings, represented the company at events, and even started studying English to be able to accompany Harrison on future international business trips. One day, approximately 4 months after the discovery at the restaurant, Harrison received a call that would once again change the course of events. "Mr. Harrison." It was Chloe, and her voice was trembling. "Chloe, what happened?" "It's my father." "He got a job. That's fantastic. Where?" "A building maintenance company. The salary isn't very high, but it's an honest job with a full-time W-2 position. He was so happy when he told me he almost cried." "How did he get it?" "Do you remember that client of yours, Mr. Bennett, who owns several companies?" "I do. He was talking to me last week about difficulties finding experienced and reliable employees. I ended up mentioning my father, his experience as a mechanic, his need to work. Mr. Bennett asked for his resume and yesterday called offering the position." Harrison smiled. He had encouraged Chloe to create professional connections and network during the events she attended. It was gratifying to see that she was taking advantage of the opportunities. And your mother, how is she? She started a basic computer course at the community center. She wants to try to get a part-time job when she finishes. She says she can't stand staying home without doing anything productive anymore. And Toby? Toby is loving the new therapies we can now afford. He's more communicative, more independent. The therapist said he has potential to get a supervised job in the future. Chloe's family was rebuilding itself, and that generated a positive energy that infected the entire office. Other employees began to open up to Harrison, sharing their challenges and personal aspirations. Brenda, the receptionist, revealed that she studied accounting at night and dreamed of working in the financial sector. Harrison encouraged her to do an internal internship in the company's accounting department. Mike, the driver, said that his wife had a small sewing business and that he would like to learn about entrepreneurship. Harrison invited him to participate in some meetings about small business management. Sarah, the cleaning lady, mentioned that her teenage daughter was an excellent student and dreamed of studying medicine, but the family couldn't afford to pay for a private university. Harrison created a scholarship program for children of employees with good academic performance. The company began to have a completely different atmosphere. Employees arrived more energized, worked with more dedication, and turnover practically disappeared. Clients commented on the excellent service and the quality of the services. 1 year after the meeting at the restaurant, Harrison was in his office reviewing annual reports when Chloe walked in with a mysterious expression. "Mr. Harrison, I need to talk to you about something important." Her tone made him apprehensive. Would it be a family problem? Some dissatisfaction at work? "Of course, Chloe. Have a seat." "Mr. Harrison, for a few months I've been thinking about an idea. I wanted your opinion before making any decision." "I'm listening." "Do you remember that I studied business administration?" "I do." "Well, I was thinking about pursuing a postgraduate degree in human resources management." Harrison smiled, relieved. "Do you think it's a good idea?" "I think it's excellent. The company can even cover the cost of your studies. I consider it an investment in our future." "Thank you, but actually, I wanted to pay with my own money." "You know why?" "Why?" "Because for the first time in years, I have the financial means to invest in myself, and that's an incredible feeling." The tears returned to her eyes, but they were tears of gratitude and pride. "Chloe, you always had the means to invest in yourself. What you didn't have were opportunities." "That's true, but now I have both." 2 years later, Chloe completed her graduate degree with distinction. Harrison officially created the Human Resources Department at the company and appointed her as its director. She was the one responsible for implementing innovative employee wellness programs that ended up becoming a benchmark in the market. Her family bought a home of their own, a simple but comfortable property with a small garden where Toby cultivated his plants. Arthur had been at the same job for 2 years and had been promoted to supervisor. Martha landed a part-time job at a school, helping in the front office and loving the chance to be around children. Toby, now 27, secured a supervised job at a local bakery, where he was beloved by all the customers for his warmth and dedication. His dream had come true. During the 3rd anniversary celebration of the company's restructuring, which Harrison decided to hold with all employees and their families, he gave a moving speech. 3 years ago, I thought I knew everything about business management. I focused only on numbers, results, profits. But a chance discovery made me realize I understood nothing about the heart of a company, the people. Everyone in attendance listened intently, especially Chloe and her family, who occupied a special table. An exemplary employee was working double shifts to support her family, and I didn't even know it. She carried enormous responsibilities with dignity and never complained. That made me question everything I believed about leadership and business success. Today, our company isn't just more profitable than it was 3 years ago. It's more human, happier, more prosperous in the broadest sense of the word. Our employees aren't just employees, they're partners in building something greater. Harrison looked directly at Chloe, and it all started with one person who taught me that true success is measured by your ability to lift up those around you. The audience applauded enthusiastically. Chloe stood up and walked to the microphone. "Mr. Harrison, may I say a few words? Of course, please. 3 years ago I was lost. I worked tirelessly, but it never seemed like enough. I felt like I was letting my family down because I couldn't give them the life they deserved. When you found me at that restaurant, I thought it was the end of everything, that I'd lose the job I loved most, that my career would be ruined forever. But you taught me something fundamental, that mistakes don't define who we are, and that sometimes our greatest weaknesses can become our greatest strengths. Today, I'm not just a better employee. I'm a better daughter, a better sister, a better person. And that was only possible because someone believed in me when I no longer believed in myself. Thank you, Mr. Harrison. Thank you for seeing me as a complete human being, not just as an employee. The party went on late into the night, with employees sharing their own stories of growth and overcoming challenges. Harrison watched it all with deep satisfaction, knowing he had found a form of success far more rewarding than he ever thought possible. Months later, Chloe brought an innovative proposal to Harrison. Mr. Harrison, what if we created a program for other companies in the city? What kind of program? A corporate humanization program. We can teach other entrepreneurs how to get to know their employees better, how to create healthier and more productive work environments. That's an interesting idea. Do you think there would be interest in the market? I'm sure of it. I talked to several people during the events we attended. Many entrepreneurs feel like something is missing in their companies, but they can't quite put their finger on what it is. And how would it work? Workshops, lectures, personalized consulting. We could share our experience, show the practical results we've achieved, help other companies implement similar changes. Harrison got excited about the idea. It was a way to expand the positive impact they had managed to create. Chloe, I think you should lead this project. You have my full trust and support. Really? Really? In fact, I think it's time you had even more autonomy in the company. How would you feel about becoming my minority partner? The proposal caught Chloe completely off guard. Partner? Mr. Harrison, it's recognition of how much you've contributed to the company's success, and it's also an investment in the future. I believe that together we can build something even greater, but I don't have capital to invest. You've already invested 3 years of your talent, your dedication, your life. That's worth far more than money. The conversation stretched on for hours, discussing details, possibilities, dreams for the future of the company. When they left the office that night, they both knew they were beginning a new chapter in their professional and personal lives. The business humanization program was an immense success. Companies from all over the region sought their services, wanting to learn how to create healthier and more productive work environments. Chloe proved to be a natural speaker, capable of moving entire audiences by telling her own story of overcoming adversity. In one of her most memorable lectures, she said, "Too often, we employees pretend our personal lives don't exist during working hours, and many bosses prefer it that way because it's simpler to deal only with professional performance. But we are complete human beings. We have families, problems, dreams, fears. When a business owner recognizes that and genuinely cares about the well-being of their team, something magical happens. Productivity increases, not because people are forced to work harder, but because they want to give their best to someone who cares about them. Loyalty becomes real, based not only on salary, but on mutual recognition and respect. And the company becomes more than a workplace. It becomes a second family, where everyone cheers for each other's success. Chloe's words resonated with hundreds of entrepreneurs, many of whom implemented significant changes in their organizations after attending her lectures. Harrison, watching the success of the partnership, realized he had found not just a competent partner, but a true friend. Someone who helped him become not only a better businessman, but a better human being. In one of their deepest conversations, he confessed, "Chloe, do you know that you've completely changed my life?" "What do you mean?" "Before I heard your story, I was obsessed with work and nothing else. I had no real friends. I didn't have a good relationship with my family. I didn't enjoy life's simple pleasures. Learning about your dedication to your family, your ability to find joy even in difficult times, your strength to overcome obstacles, all of that inspired me to become a more complete person. Today I have a better relationship with my mother. I've built genuine friendships. I make time for hobbies I had abandoned. Paradoxically, I work fewer hours, but I'm far more efficient and fulfilled professionally. Mr. Harrison, by the way, I think after all this time and so many changes, you can just call me Harrison. All right, Harrison, she smiled. Can I say that you changed my life too? Not just financially, but in terms of self-esteem, future prospects, dreams I didn't even know I still had. You taught me that I had value, that my ideas mattered, that I could aspire to greater things, and more importantly, you taught me that asking for help isn't a sign of weakness, but of courage. Their friendship grew stronger over the following years. Harrison became practically a member of the Santos family. He started attending birthday celebrations, Sunday lunches, and holiday gatherings. Toby adopted him as an older brother, always sharing his achievements at the bakery and his little everyday dreams. Arthur and Martha treated him like a son, always worried about whether he was eating well, whether he wasn't working too hard. The company continued to grow and thrive. The humanization program expanded to other cities, and they began receiving invitations to speak at national events. Chloe became a reference in the field, wrote articles for trade magazines, and was even invited to appear on television programs. 5 years after that fateful meeting at the restaurant, during a company award ceremony for the region's best place to work, Harrison made a point of sharing the stage with Chloe. "This award isn't mine," he said into the microphone. "This award belongs to every employee of our company, but especially to the person who taught me that true business success is measured by the happiness of the people who work with us. 5 years ago, I was a technically competent businessman, but humanly limited. Today, I'm partners with the most dedicated, most ethical, and most inspiring person I've ever met. Chloe Miller isn't just my business partner. She's my mentor in humanity, my partner in building dreams, and one of the most important people in my life." Chloe took the microphone with tears in her eyes. "Harrison, you once said that I taught you about humanity, but you're forgetting that it was you who taught me about possibilities. You took a desperate woman who thought her destiny was to work 14 hours a day for the rest of her life, and you showed me that I could dream bigger. Today, my family is stable and happy. My brother works and is independent. My parents have dignity and prospects for the future. And I discovered a calling I didn't even know I had. But most importantly, I learned that it doesn't matter where you started in life. What matters is not giving up on growing, on learning, on becoming a better version of yourself every day. Thank you, Harrison. Thank you for seeing potential where I only saw limitations." The audience rose in a warm ovation that lasted several minutes. Among those present were dozens of employees from other companies whose lives had been positively impacted by the programs developed by Harrison and Chloe. After the ceremony, during the celebration at the office, Toby approached Harrison with a special look on his face. "Harrison, can I talk to you?" "Of course, Toby. Always. I wanted to thank you for something very important." "What is it, my friend?" "You gave me my sister back." The simplicity and depth of the statement moved Harrison deeply. "What do you mean, Toby?" "Before, when she worked at night, I barely saw my sister. She came home exhausted, didn't have time to talk to me, to help me with things I didn't know how to do. Now she comes home smiling. She teaches me new things, takes me out on weekends, talks to me about my dreams. She's become the sister I remember from our childhood again. You brought my family back together, thank you." Harrison hugged Toby, knowing he had received the greatest recognition possible for what he had done. Dear listener, if you are enjoying the story, go ahead and leave a like and above all, subscribe to the channel. That really helps those of us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. The following years brought even more growth and recognition. Harrison and Chloe's company became a nationally recognized consulting firm. They wrote a book together about humanizing business, which became a bestseller in the management field. Chloe developed her own methodologies for identifying and resolving organizational climate issues. She created assessment tools that allowed business owners to better understand the needs and aspirations of their employees. Harrison, in turn, specialized in corporate restructuring with a focus on human well-being. He developed business models that mathematically proved that more humane companies were also more profitable in the long run. Together, they transformed hundreds of companies and positively impacted the lives of thousands of workers and their families. At an international business management conference, Chloe was invited as the keynote speaker. Her topic, From Waitress to Entrepreneur, a journey of mutual transformation. 8 years ago, she began, standing before an audience of over 1,000 people. I was a desperate woman, working double shifts to support my family with no prospects for the future, believing my fate was sealed. My boss was a competent man but distant, focused only on results, who knew nothing about the personal lives of his employees. A chance encounter changed our lives forever. He saw me in an embarrassing situation, but instead of judging me, he chose to understand me. He discovered that I wasn't just an efficient employee, but a person with a family, with dreams, with struggles, with untapped potential. From that moment on, we both began a journey of transformation. He learned to be more human. I learned to dream bigger. Today, we are partners in a thriving company, but more importantly, we are living proof that true success happens when people genuinely care about one another. Each of you has employees with stories similar to mine, competent people who face struggles you know nothing about, who have potential you don't see, who could contribute so much more if they felt valued as complete human beings. The challenge I leave with you today is this. Leave here and truly get to know the people who work with you. Discover their stories, their needs, their dreams. Invest in their personal and professional growth. I guarantee the results will surprise every one of you. More humane companies aren't just more ethical, they're more profitable, more sustainable, and more rewarding for everyone involved. The speech was followed by a standing ovation that lasted nearly 5 minutes. Dozens of business owners approached Chloe during the coffee break, eager to learn more about her methodologies and sharing their own similar stories. Harrison, who had watched it all from the front row, felt immense pride in the partner who had become his best friend and mentor in so many aspects of life. That night, during the conference's closing dinner, he reflected out loud. "Chloe, do you realize how much we've grown since that night at the restaurant?" "What do you mean?" "Look around us. We're at an international conference, you just gave an inspiring speech to over 1,000 people, our company is a national benchmark, and it all started with what seemed like the worst possible moment of our lives." "That's true," she smiled. "If someone had told me that night that I'd be here today, I would have thought they were crazy. If someone had told me that I'd find my best business partner and one of the most important people in my life in a moment of embarrassment, I would never have believed it." You know what the most incredible part of all this is? What? It's that our story doesn't end here. We still have so much to build, so many people to help, so many companies to transform. And we have our families growing and prospering. Toby is dating an adorable girl who works at the same bakery. Your parents are planning a trip to the Hamptons for their next vacation, their first in over 10 years. My mother never tires of telling her friends how proud she is of her successful businessman's son. "That's what I love most about what we do today," Chloe said. "We don't just transform companies, we transform lives, and each transformed life impacts other lives, creating a virtuous cycle of prosperity and happiness." Exactly. And to think we almost lost all of this because I was too proud to take an interest in my employees' lives. And I was too proud to ask for help when I needed it. I think we've learned that true pride lies in recognizing our limitations and working to overcome them, and that true success lies in lifting up those around us. 2 years later, Harrison and Chloe opened a non-profit foundation dedicated to helping families in situations similar to the one the Miller family had faced. The foundation offered financial guidance, vocational courses, psychological support, and job placement services. Toby became one of the foundation's most beloved volunteers, using his own experience of overcoming adversity to inspire other people with disabilities to believe in their potential. Arthur, now a supervisor at his company, began giving lectures to older workers about professional reinvention and how to cope with late career unemployment. Martha developed a cooking program for low-income families, teaching them how to prepare nutritious, budget-friendly meals. The foundation became a national benchmark in social inclusion and income generation programs. It received awards, government recognition, and support from several companies that adopted its methods of social responsibility. During the inauguration of the foundation's new headquarters, an event that brought together hundreds of people who had benefited from the programs, Harrison gave a moving speech. 10 years ago, I was a man who measured success only by numbers on spreadsheets. Today, I measure success by the number of smiles we've created, families we've brought together, and dreams we've helped fulfill. It all started when an extraordinary employee taught me that behind every person there is a story, a family, untapped potential. Today, this foundation exists to ensure that other families don't have to go through the despair the Miller family went through, and so that other business owners don't miss the opportunity to get to know the incredible people who work alongside them. Chloe then took the floor. This foundation is proof that there are no coincidences in life, only opportunities disguised as problems. My greatest crisis turned into my greatest opportunity. My moment of greatest shame became the beginning of my greatest achievement. And all of this was only possible because I found someone willing to look beyond appearances, to invest in human potential, to believe that all people deserve a second chance. May this foundation be a symbol of hope for those who are still fighting, and an inspiration for those who have the power to make a difference in the lives of others. The ceremony concluded with a performance by a choir made up of employees from all the companies that had been transformed by Harrison and Chloe's programs. They sang a song specially composed for the occasion, with lyrics that spoke about overcoming adversity, unity, and hope. Among the singers was Toby, whose emotional voice brought tears to the eyes of everyone present. His presence on stage symbolized the journey of the entire Miller family, from struggle to victory, from despair to fulfillment. That night, Harrison and Chloe walked together to the parking lot, reflecting on everything they had built over the years. Have you ever thought about where we would be today if I hadn't gone to that restaurant on that particular night? Harrison asked. I think about it sometimes, Chloe replied. I'd probably still be working double shifts. You'd still be a competent but lonely businessman, and thousands of people wouldn't have been impacted by our programs. It's frightening how small decisions can change everything, or how the universe conspires to put the right people in the right place at the right time. Do you believe that? I believe that when we're open to learning and growing, opportunities appear. And when we're willing to help others, we receive help too. You know I consider you one of the most important people in my life, don't you? I know. And you know you're more than a partner to me. You're a brother I chose to have, a family we built together. Exactly. 15 years after that encounter at the restaurant, Harrison and Chloe decided to write a second book, this time focused on the real stories of the families and businesses that had been transformed by their programs. The book, titled Encounters That Transform: Real Stories of Overcoming and Humanizing Business, became a publishing phenomenon. Each chapter told the story of a person or family that had been positively impacted by the foundation's or the consulting firm's projects. One of the most moving stories was that of Mrs. Abigail, a 68-year-old woman who had lost her job as a housekeeper after 40 years of work. Through the foundation, she learned basic computer skills and landed a job as a receptionist at a medical clinic, where she discovered she had a natural talent for organization and customer service. Another remarkable story was that of Derek, a 25-year-old young man who had been unemployed for 2 years and had lost his self-esteem. The Foundation's programs helped him discover his calling for sales, and today he is the commercial manager of a mid-sized company. Each story in the book demonstrated how investing in human potential generates unimaginable returns, not just financial, but social, emotional, and spiritual. During the book launch at a packed bookstore, Chloe read a particularly meaningful passage. There are no people without potential, only people without opportunities. There are no unimportant stories, only stories that haven't been heard yet. There are no worthless lives, only lives that haven't been valued yet. This book is our way of honoring every person who trusted us to help them rewrite their story. and our way of inspiring others to do the same. The launch event was streamed live online and watched by thousands of people across the country. The comments on social media were touching, with people sharing their own stories of overcoming adversity and thanking them for the inspiration. A businesswoman from another city commented, "After reading your first book, I completely changed the way I treat my employees. Today we have a much more prosperous company and everyone is happier." An unemployed young man wrote, "Chloe's story gave me the courage not to give up on my dreams. I kept looking for a job and finally got an opportunity." A single mother said, "You taught me that I can aspire to greater things for myself and for my children. I went back to school and today I'm studying education." Each comment reinforced Harrison and Chloe's conviction that they were on the right path, making a real and lasting difference in people's lives. During an interview on a highly rated television program, the host asked a question that perfectly summed up their journey. "Harrison, Chloe, if you could go back in time and avoid that awkward encounter at the restaurant, would you?" Harrison and Chloe looked at each other and smiled. "Never," Harrison replied. "That was the most important moment of our professional and personal lives. That's when we discovered that our greatest challenges can become our greatest opportunities," Chloe added, "and that the right people come into our lives exactly when we need them, even if we don't realize it at the time. If I could change anything," Harrison said, "it would be having that awareness about the importance of people much earlier in life. And I would change my reluctance to ask for help when I needed it," Chloe said. "I learned that asking for help is a sign of intelligence, not weakness." "What message would you like to leave for those watching right now?" the host asked. "That they pay attention to the people around them," Chloe said. "Every person has a story, has potential, has something to contribute. Sometimes all we need is someone who believes in us to discover what we're capable of. And that they not be afraid to genuinely care about others," Harrison added. "Caring for people isn't just an ethical matter. It's a smart strategy for life and business. When we lift up those around us, we are lifted up as well," they concluded together. The interview had national impact. Hundreds of business owners reached out wanting to implement similar programs in their companies. Thousands of people shared the interview on social media, creating a spontaneous movement of valuing humanity in the corporate environment. Universities began including case studies based on Harrison and Chloe's story in their business administration courses. Business schools invited them to be visiting professors, sharing their experiences with future generations of entrepreneurs. The government created a national program based on the methodologies they had developed, implementing public policies for humanizing work in federal, state, and municipal agencies. 20 years after that transformative encounter, Harrison was in his office reviewing the Foundation's projects when Chloe walked in with special news. "Harrison, I just received an interesting phone call." "From whom?" "From the National Social Excellence Award Committee. We've been selected as finalists in the Transformative Impact category." "Really? That's incredible. And do you know what the final evaluation criterion is going to be?" "What?" "They want to hear testimonials from the people who have been impacted by our projects. They're going to interview employees from the companies we transformed, Foundation beneficiaries, families who were helped." "How wonderful. Our work will be evaluated exactly by the people who truly matter." "Exactly. And regardless of the outcome, we've already won the most important prize, the gratitude of thousands of people whose lives have been improved." At the awards ceremony held in the nation's capital, Harrison and Chloe were accompanied by a special delegation. Toby and his parents, now in their 70s, but still active and proud of their children. Toby, now married and father of a little girl, had become a supervisor at the bakery where he worked. His daughter, despite her young age, already showed the same warmth and determination as her father. Arthur, retired but still active, had become a volunteer advisor at the Foundation, helping other older workers re-enter the job market. Martha, also retired, coordinated the Foundation's cooking program and had become a local personality, appearing regularly on television shows teaching budget-friendly and nutritious recipes. When the award was announced, the entire delegation was moved. Harrison and Chloe went up to the stage together, but made a point of inviting the entire Miller family to share the moment. "This award isn't ours," said Harrison at the microphone. "You are." This award belongs to every person who believed change was possible, to every family that never gave up dreaming, to every business owner who decided to be more humane. But especially, added Chloe, it belongs to the family that taught me the true meaning of unity, determination, and unconditional love. Toby grabbed the microphone with his characteristic ease. I want to say something, he said, moving the audience. 20 years ago, my family was very sad because we had no money and my father had no job. Today, my sister is a famous businesswoman. My father helps other people find work. My mother teaches recipes on television. I have my own job and my own family. But you know what's most important? We're still a close-knit family that loves each other and always helps one another. Thank you, Harrison, for taking care of my sister. Thank you for making her smile again. Tears swept through the audience and the hosts. That simple, sincere testimony perfectly summed up the real impact of everything that had been built over the years. After the ceremony, during the reception, hundreds of people approached Harrison and Chloe, wanting to learn more about their story and their methods. A young business owner approached Chloe. Ms. Miller, I watched your lecture 5 years ago and completely changed the way I run my company. Today, we have the lowest turnover rate in our sector and the highest employee satisfaction. An elderly woman addressed Harrison. Mr. Harrison, my son took part in the Foundation's programs 3 years ago. Today he has his own company and employs 15 people. Thank you for believing in him when even we no longer did. Each testimony reinforced the certainty that the path they had chosen was the right one and that the impact of their actions multiplied exponentially through every transformed life. On the trip back home on the plane, Harrison and Chloe talked about upcoming projects. Chloe, have you ever thought about writing a third book? About what topic? About the importance of second chances. Both you and I received second chances in life. You, the chance to grow professionally. Me, the chance to become more human. And now we give second chances to other people through the foundation and the consulting firm. Exactly. I think it would be inspiring to show how everyone deserves a second opportunity, and how offering those opportunities is one of the most rewarding things we can do. I love the idea. We can include stories of people who overcame prejudice, who went back to school as adults, who changed careers, who rebuilt their lives after hardships. And we can show how companies that offer second chances end up discovering incredible talents the market had unfairly discarded. The book was written over the following year and became even more impactful than the previous ones. Each chapter was a lesson on overcoming adversity, resilience, and the importance of never giving up on your dreams, regardless of age or circumstances. One of the most moving stories was that of Mrs. Dorothy, a 72-year-old woman who had learned computer skills at the Foundation and become a blogger, writing about senior experiences and amassing thousands of followers. Another remarkable story was that of Justin, a former convict who had found at the Foundation the opportunity to rebuild his life, learned a trade, and now owned a small carpentry shop that employed other at-risk youth. The book, Second Chances, When Believing Makes All the Difference, became required reading in people management courses and inspired the creation of hundreds of similar programs across the country. During a lecture at a university, a student asked an insightful question. Professor Chloe, after everything you've accomplished, do you still remember how you felt before you met each other? Chloe smiled and looked at Harrison, who was in the front row. I remember perfectly, she replied. I felt invisible, worthless, as if my only purpose in life was to work to support others without ever having the right to my own dreams. And how do you feel today? Today I feel powerful, not in the sense of power over others, but in the sense of having the power to transform lives, including my own. And what about you, Mr. Harrison? Harrison stood up to answer. Before, I felt important because of the money I had and the company I had built. But it was an empty feeling, because I didn't have anyone to truly share that importance with. Today I feel important because of the lives I help transform, the people I love and who love me back, and the positive legacy we are building together. The difference is that before I was important on my own. Today I am important as part of something greater. The lecture ended with a warm ovation, and dozens of students approaching to ask more specific questions about how to implement human-centered programs in their future companies. Many of those students became exceptional entrepreneurs, creating companies based on the principles they learned from Harrison and Chloe, perpetuating the cycle of positive transformation. 25 years after that meeting at the restaurant, Harrison and Chloe's consulting firm had become one of the largest in the country in the field of corporate humanization. The foundation had directly helped more than 50,000 families and inspired the creation of hundreds of similar organizations. Toby, now a father of 3, had become the general manager of the bakery and was studying business administration through a special program for people with intellectual disabilities. His children were growing up in an environment of love and opportunity he had never imagined possible. Arthur and Martha, now 80 years old, were considered the grandparents of the foundation, always present at events, advising struggling families and sharing their experiences of overcoming hardship. Their story had become a national symbol that it is possible to rebuild one's life at any age, inspiring millions of people facing similar difficulties. During a special interview celebrating the 25 years of transformation, the journalist asked one final question. If you could leave a single message for future generations, what would it be? Harrison and Chloe looked at each other, as they always did before answering important questions. Never underestimate the power of one person willing to help another, said Harrison. And never underestimate your own potential to overcome any difficulty, added Chloe. Believe that your stories are still being written and that you have the power to make them extraordinary, they said together. And always remember, it doesn't matter where you started. What matters is where you decide to go and how many people you bring along on that journey. The camera slowly zoomed in as Harrison and Chloe smiled, representing not only their own transformation, but the transformation of thousands of lives touched by their shared story of overcoming adversity. The documentary about their lives, released that same year, won international awards and was translated into more than 20 languages, spreading around the world the message that everyone deserves a chance to show their true potential. The story that had begun with an awkward encounter at a restaurant had become a global movement to humanize labor relations and value human potential. 30 years later, Harrison, now 72, and Chloe, 65, remained active in the foundation and at Sterling Consulting, but had handed over most of the operational responsibilities to the new generation of professionals they had trained. Toby, now 54, and with a degree in business administration, had become the foundation's executive director, bringing a unique perspective as a person with a disability who had exceeded all expectations. His children, now adults, followed in the footsteps of their father and their honorary aunt and uncle, working in various areas of social responsibility and humanized entrepreneurship. The Miller family, which had started out facing the loss of their home, now owned a country estate where they held foundation events and welcomed families for retreats focused on rebuilding family and professional life. The place, known as Second Chance Estate, had become a symbol of hope, where people from all over the country came to find inspiration and the tools to start their lives over. During one of their last public interviews together, Harrison and Chloe offered a final reflection on their journey. "Do you regret anything from these 30 years?" the journalist asked. "The time we lost before truly knowing each other," Chloe replied. "We worked in the same environment for 3 years without either of us knowing the other's story. I wonder how many other extraordinary stories we let pass us by because we didn't pay attention to the people around us," Harrison added. "But that regret taught us something fundamental," Chloe said. "It taught us to value every encounter, every conversation, every chance to truly get to know someone. And it taught us that it's never too late to genuinely care about people," Harrison concluded. The interview ended with footage from the Foundation's latest celebration, where hundreds of families who had been helped over the years gathered to celebrate and share their stories of overcoming hardship. Among all those present, Toby stood out as the master of ceremonies, displaying an eloquence and wisdom that moved everyone. His own journey, from a young man with an intellectual disability to a respected leader, was living proof that human potential knows no limits when it finds the right opportunities. During his speech, he said something that perfectly summed up the entire journey. 30 years ago, my sister thought her life was over, when my future brother-in-law saw her working at the restaurant. Today, they are worldwide examples of perseverance and transformation. This taught me that our worst moments can become our best beginnings, that our greatest shames can turn into our greatest sources of pride, and that when one person decides to help another, the whole world becomes a little better. The applause was deafening, but the most moving sight was Harrison and Chloe embracing, crying with emotion and pride, knowing that they had created far more than a company or a foundation. They had created an extended family of thousands of people, a network of transformation that would continue growing far beyond their own lives, perpetuating the message that everyone deserves a chance to show their true worth. The story of the CEO who was shocked to see his assistant working as a waitress had become much more than a story of individual triumph. It had become a movement, a philosophy, a legacy of love, hope, and transformation that would touch future generations. And it had all begun with a seemingly chance encounter at a restaurant, proving that destiny sometimes uses the most unlikely moments to write the most extraordinary stories. The end. This was a fictional story created to touch our hearts. Now tell us what you thought. Do you believe that small gestures can transform entire lives? Share your thoughts on this journey of overcoming adversity in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories.